My last appeal before all resistance to the New World Order becomes futile. I am both creative and conscientious. Bridging, reconciling, and thus being the synthesis of the conventional liberal conservative personality types. My questioning of assumptions goes deeper than any philosopher before me. Thus the foundations of my principles rest of a more solid footing, than any existing conventional ideology or philosophy. I reject the conventional idea that the ends justify the means, as pure opportunism on the part of those actors who wish to define themselves as good people, while doing evil things. My personality profile is singular, full of contradictions which rarely occur, and which few people have ever managed to reconcile. It has cost me every human comfort and material reward that most people with much less intelligence, talent, competence, and creativity, than myself, would consider their birthright and entitlement. I can balance order and coerce. I am the personification of the balance of conservatism and liberalism. I do not resort to noble lies. I do not need to reconcile means and ends. For me, the means we employ are the only authentic indicator for evaluating a person's ethics and integrity. We can only guess at a person's motives, what they intend to achieve by way of these actions. But what they do is an objective measure of their intrinsic nature and character and personality. The same goes for organizations. What they claim they intend is mere hearsay. What they actually do defines them. People lie to others. People lie to themselves. People join together as allies, against their common perceived competition and enemies, and wage war by deception, in a world where man is wolf to man. This is in fact the official motto of Mossad. To wage war by deception. Actions do not lie. But of course you can spin the meaning of actions. So that opportunistic actions, intended as mere means to other ends than those stated, are represented as solutions to immediate problems that are given as the official ends of those actions. The actors involved often desh themselves into justifying their monstrous, cruel, ruthless, heartless, sociopathic actions as necessary and even noble. Defining their deceptions as noble lies. COVID-19 is the most recent noble lie I have documented and exposed. This threat to the public has been constructed to justify lockdowns and social distancing and the destruction of small and medium-sized businesses. The point of constructing these artificial problems is to gain public acceptance for a solution that will be offered. Where that solution was always the intended goal of those who constructed the COVID-19 threat. The solution being a police state. The adoption of apps and later injections of nanotech to be used to track the movements of every person on this planet. To record and track their every move. Their every action. Their every emotion. Their every response. The carrot that can now be offered is the return to normal. For you will not be allowed to return to school, work, or anything like a normal life, until you download the app, and voluntarily submit to being injected with nanotech, in the form of a vaccine. These tracking apps and injections have absolutely nothing to do with the stated goals of protecting the public from a health threat. COVID-19 is, to those behind this constructed threat, this full-spectrum propaganda, a noble lie being consciously employed by those opportunistically taking advantage of the public's fear at this time to roll out their New World Order control grid. A fear that is the intended product of precisely and ingeniously orchestrated, triggered, engineered, and constructed impressions and perceptions of a global pandemic health threat. The COVID-19 propaganda is a mere means to achieve the clearly stated objectives of the New World Order agents and operatives. The world leaders are mere actors and puppets of the cult of Judah, in its war against humanity, freedom, liberty, and justice, which it has been pursuing for over 3,000 years. The end intended is to make people think we face a global threat, which only a global government can deal with. So that we will either actively welcome, or at least passively acquiesce to, the elimination of all our personal rights, liberties, and freedoms, in the name of protection. What we have for the last 100 years or so considered basic human rights will become privileges which can be revoked simply by having your COVID-19 passport app change from green to red. What we are looking at is the archetypal protection racket. The basis of the cult of Judah's power. The basis of every cult of Judah religion that has occupied first Mesopotamia, then the West, in many different forms. But all with the same final goal. The irony is that many of the measures which are soon to be forced upon the public are very similar to what I have called for in my Eden Protocols. Only in my own writings I state that we could never trust our current leaders with the power that would become centralized in so few hands, as a result of the measures now being pushed through. So I am not altogether distressed by what is happening, or where it is heading. Because the difference between those leading you into this, now, and myself, are not that great. Except that they intend to rule as slave masters, in luxury. While I would never abuse any power I had for personal gain. In my world everyone would share the costs and benefits. In the world we are been deceived into walking into, there will be two classes of beings. An elite that enjoy every imaginable luxury and privilege, without creating any value. And the masses, who will all be reduced down to the same low standard of living, who produce all the value, which will be appropriated by the elites for their own personal consumption. These elites feel entitled to use the most cruel, ruthless, vicious, destructive, and deceptive means to achieve their ends. And they feel entitled to consume the value produced by others. They feel entitled to use you and your loved ones as mere means to their ends. For they do not define you as fully human. Within a few months the de facto one-world government, the New World Order, the ultimate expression of the cult of Judah's ideology of Semitism, will be operational. The masses will, in a matter of months, return to the days of serfdom and slavery, requiring the permission of their masters, for the privilege of being allowed to travel beyond their own village. This is the point of the COVID-19 passport. It will take a digital form at first, as a smartphone app. But then it will take the form of an injected nanotech. This nanotech will serve as the total control mechanism. It will contain your blockchain. A record of everything you have ever done. GPS data. Financial data. Every financial transaction in the future will pass through your one universal credit account. Your health history will be recorded. Every bowel movement. Your body temperature. Your menstrual cycles. Pregnancies. Abortions. Headaches. Where you have been. Who was there? What you said. Any electronic correspondence you received or sent. Every social media post. This nanotech will identify you. And grant or prevent you accessing any service. From buying or selling, to using public transport. Or even going for a walk outside your own home. For there will be drones and robots patrolling the streets, scanning everyone. And if your COVID-19 pass is red, you will be compelled to return home. And you will be punished and fined automatically for arbitrary violations of arbitrary rules. By robots and AI. Your universal credit balance automatically deducted. Your privileges denied. Within a few months this nanotech will be injected into the bodies of billions of people, in the guise of a vaccine. This vaccine will become compulsory for all those who wish to return to normal in any sense. Such as returning to school, university, work, to operate a business, to travel outside their own village. To regain, what are now, in this new world order, privileges, rather than basic human rights. The metaphor for this in the cult of Judah's Torah was Moses being instructed to construct an idol of a snake coiled around a pole. Nakash. The root of our word for money. That word lies at the heart of how the cult of Judah gained control of this world. As instructed in their official mission statement known as the Torah. That symbol is also the universal symbol for the medical profession. Remember that Moses began his career as a murderer and looter and pillager, then graduated to mass murderer of his own people, before his successor, Joshua, moved on to genocide. If you offend the cult of Judah masters in any way, you will lose access to the privileges that we used to define, before the cult of Judah's false flag known as 9/11, as basic human rights. That false flag was used to usher in the Patriot Act. The current COVID-19 hoax is being used to usher in the full adoption of the most extreme measures in the Patriot Act on a worldwide basis. I say hoax because whatever it is less dangerous than the seasonal flu we have lived through for hundreds of years without anyone ever even considering anything like the extreme measures being forced upon us, and being justified by this COVID-19. The first step will be COVID-19 passports. The next step will be the abolition of cash. This will be defined as necessary because cash passes through many hands, and is thus a dangerous vector for COVID-19. And also as a vector for criminal transactions. We will have a cashless society. What this does is give the masters the power to block transactions at will. To make it impossible for you to buy or sell anything. To perform any transaction. To even buy food for your family. Let alone petrol for your car. If you fail to fully submit to their arbitrary laws and regulations. Which will ultimately be enforced, not by humans who might show compassion, but by robots and AI. In the form of street patrols of drones and robots. All these measures have already been adopted in China. You can go online, or watch videos I have reposted on my Marduk Tir Facebook page, and Saving Us and the Jews from the Cult of Judah BitChute channel. Soon censorship will shut down access to anyone and any ideas that go off script. That move beyond the official narrative. That do not support the official narrative. The legal fiction. The script. Every word spoken in public will be limited to the script. Scripted. With no ad-libbing or improvisation allowed. Like Holocaust denial, COVID-19 denial will become a crime. Those who go off script will lose access to the internet. They will be punished like children with the removal of all privileges. Remembering that under the new normal, the term privilege will refer to all the basic human rights defined by the United Nations. Rights we struggled for thousands of years to achieve. Rights which the cult of Judah, in all its forms, have always opposed. Worse than the conventional, traditional, censorship, we will have 1984-style compulsory propaganda viewing. This will take the form of compulsory internet connections and scheduled programs. Your active viewing will be compulsory. Monitored and recorded by your smart T.V or other smart device. It will be watching you watching the propaganda. To ensure your compliance and attention. And to record your every micro-facial gesture and utterance. To determine whether the propaganda is successfully producing the intellectual and emotional reactions intended. To ensure it is being effective at controlling your mind. Controlling your thoughts. Controlling your emotions. If you fail to actively attend to the propaganda, you will be fined. Lose points off your social credit rating. And lose privileges. Anything from the right to buy anything other than the mere basic necessities, to the right to travel outside your village, or even go to the park in your own village. The AI, and some human operators, will be observing your reactions to the propaganda. As a form of pre-crime profiling. To determine who is likely to reject the propaganda and thus remain independent and free-thinking. Such behavior will become criminal. Defined as a crime. Those so defined will become the new terrorist threat. Your reactions to the propaganda will be used as an indicator of criminal propensity and inclination. Suggesting the profile of a criminal. And the state will have the legal power to arrest you based on these pre-crimes. What are called thought crimes in 1984. You will be arrested and taken to a re-education facility. Like the ones already operating in China, with millions of inmates. I will try to upload video of that, but you can find it online elsewhere. At first, though, rather than openly accuse people of being terrorists, as occurs in China today, are Western thought criminals and anyone else who does not swallow the propaganda and show the desired fear of COVID-19 and who does not acquiesce to lockdowns and social distancing, will simply be defined as COVID-19 carriers. This pretext will be used to round them up, and isolate them from the general public. Remember, Hitler famously stated that we get to define who is a Jew. In the same way that today the de facto one world government occupation puppet governments of your occupied nation get to decide who is a COVID-19 carrier. Simply because the indicators used are arbitrary, open to opportunistic interpretation. So that anyone the government want to isolate and remove from the general population, or whose movements and actions they want to severely restrict, can easily have the Star of David stuck to their sleeve, in the form of a COVID-19 passport invalidation. A red COVID-19 app reading. Already in China people have apps on their phones which go from green to red, and thus, with no requirement for justification, legally deny them the right to leave their own homes. I don't have internet access or time to put together videos myself, but I will try to upload some from Corbett Report and similar sites where you can go to find them now. I wanted to stop struggling. For it is game over already. Unless millions of people suddenly make time to become informed. My neighbor seems skeptical of the lockdowns and official COVID-19 narrative. However, like everyone else, he claims I don't have time to take a quick look at the compelling arguments I have formulated. Well, remember that when your children ask you why you did nothing to stop them become serfs and slaves again. I did not intend writing this. Or making this video. Or going around in the cold looking for a Wi-Fi connection to upload it. Barely able to read my laptop screen due to glare, to navigate the web page to do it. But I watched some silly video which has received massive public interest and it triggered me. By the now famous author's comments about the divide between conservatives and liberals, based on conscientiousness and creativity. And though I loathe the idea of being a cat wrangler, I still offer my services to the world as philosopher king. Because I have a number of singular character traits. I have reached the singularity when it comes to the traits required of a leader. Such as the successful integration of conscientiousness with creativity. That author appears as typical controlled opposition. Saying some small elements of truth to mirror and lead us away from the bigger, whole, truth. To distract and misdirect our attention away from where it needs to become as focused as a laser beam. While also focusing our attention very narrowly, where it needs to become holistic and take a step back, so that the pieces of the mosaic, the threads of the tapestry, can be seen in their holistic context, so that the dots can be joined and the full picture can emerge, and be seen. We need to take a step back and get our Zen on in order to actually see what is there right before our eyes. The Gestalt image hidden in plain sight, in the official image that most people have been conditioned and programmed to see. I have had that experience in a backpackers in Berlin. Even with the painter standing next to me, laughing, trying to get me to see the Gestalt image he had painted within the mural on the wall, for day after day, I could not see the Gestalt. Until finally it did appear. And from that moment on I could not see it. It has been the same for me with regards to this cult of Judah social reality I was born into. I could smell something was wrong. That led me to investigate. To ask the questions that no one else was asking. And my Trunitnor guides and reference books and novels are the result of my quest. I ask the questions no one else is going to ask. Questions very soon no one will ever again be free to ask. And the answers revealed the Gestalt. The reality hidden within the social reality. It was always there. A secret hidden in plain sight. Hidden because our ways of seeing had been so distorted, blinkered, filtered, misdirected, and directed, focused and blurred, so that all we ever saw was the picture within which the actual reality, the Gestalt, was hidden. Like that painter, it is very frustrating for me that most people will not even make the effort to see what is right in front of them. It will take some days to read through my most important books. But if you do so, with an open mind, expecting to find something, you will find it. And you will, like in my example of that Gestalt mural on that Berlin backpacker's wall, suddenly see what was always there. Staring you in the face. The secret hidden in plain sight. Which you could not see. And never even suspected was there. So you never even looked for it? Remember, if the actual artist of that mural had not been there, and had not explained to me that he had painted a gestalt within the mural, I would never even have looked for it. Let alone over and over a course of days and even weeks. I would never have so actively looked for it. So I probably never would have found it. Seen it? When it was always right there on the wall. Every time I made a cup of coffee. Every time I came down the stairs to leave the backpackers. The developers of AI stated clearly that if you take two AI programs, the one that you feed with the most data, will perform the best. I have never claimed to be a genius. So you do not need to be one either. The main difference between me and you is the amount of data I have gathered, over decades. This is what enables my mind to perform better than yours. At identifying patterns. At discerning the facts hidden among the lies. At seeing the gestalt that is hidden in plain sight, in the official image. The social reality. So I come out of retirement to beg you to download my TrueNetNor imprint. From my Patreon TrueNetNor page. From my Google Drive account. Using links in my TrueNetNor WordPress page. And links in my BitChute Saving Us and the Jews from the Cult of Judah channel. And my Marduk Tier Facebook page. And then make the time to read those books dealing directly with philosophy and the New World Order. You can also buy some of them as paperback on Amazon. Remember that any moment now these books will disappear forever. It will cost you nothing to download them. So please do. One day you might want to know what happened. If enough people ask me to lead them as a group, like a modern, but this time enlightened, compassionate, empathetic, Moses or philosopher king or even just advisor, I promise I do have strategies for both attempting to resist the full-scale rollout of this world dictatorship, and for gaining ultimate liberation not just from this New World Order dictatorship, but from this plain ET. I have founded the Free Church, the Vegan Church, for this purpose. To offer all those interested, the opportunity to join with me in a common purpose. The principles of this church are much more ancient than the modern cult of Judah religions we have been enslaved by. So this would be a renaissance of truly principled, ethical, enlightened values. Such as truth and justice for all sentient beings. And based upon the universal law that for as you do unto other sentient beings, so shall be done unto you. The gestalt within the propaganda image will soon be clear to everyone. Within months. And within years it will have a total stranglehold on the lives of every being on this plane ET. It is now, like a python, tightening its grip each time we exhale. Such as in the coming temporary relief from the lockdown. Soon we will not be able to breathe, without its permission. Without its approval. And if we offend it in any way, it will withhold all the privileges we who have grown up during this temporary period of freedom, had assumed were our natural-born birthright and entitlement. But remember that the cult of Judah is only treating us as we treat other sentient beings on this plane. Those less clever, and powerful, than ourselves. So we are not innocent victims at all. Marcus Heinrich Rebuck. Sovereign Ecclesia. The Free Church, the Vegan Church. May 29th, in this year of our Cult of Judah occupation, 2020. I do not have internet access other than standing outside the public library. My phone number is +372 5360 7456 if you wish to try to contact me. I also have various apps, but they won't work unless I am standing outside the library. If you wish to support me, I would accept any resources offered. I live off a few dollars a day. In poverty. Eating very badly. With no access to health care or dental services. In order to be free to research and write for as long as I am free to. I am not complaining. Most people on this planet suffer in one way or another. This is what has taught me compassion for the suffering of all sentient beings. This is the only positive way to view this world. As a reform school. So who am I to deny you the most valuable lessons you could possibly learn, taught by the actions of the cult of Judan New World Order. That would not be fair to you, or to the other sentient beings you presently define, and thus treat, in the same way that the cult of Judah define, and treat, and are planning to treat, you and your loved ones. If you seriously wish to achieve your own liberation and ascension from this prison plane this reform school, this vale of tears, with an open Zen mind, I have published all the tools you will ever need to achieve this objective. So please I beg you, even if you have zero interest right now, download my entire TrueNet Nor imprint at no cost to you, now, and keep them safe somewhere. And if possible seed them as torrents. The links will appear in videos on my BitChute channel, WordPress, Patreon, and Marduk Tier Facebook pages also. One folder is just PDF files to print off and read on any device. The other folders contain the ebook versions, Mobi, and EPUB. Happy next lives.